Hi everyone, Edwin here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to put an end to the 10 album challenge. This of course was a thread that James Griffiths started in England where he did a link of 10 albums. So basically the first album had to connect to the next, so on and so forth, and by the time you got to number 10, that had to connect back to the first album. So a lot of people have done it, and there's been some fantastic ones. And then me trying to push the limits, I actually got a 16 link video done, to which James came back and did a 20 link. So honestly, I wanted to put this to rest, and I didn't want to have to do this, and I kind of went back and forth all day. But anyway, after hitting several roadblocks, I have got 20 albums that link together. So James, I'm going to do this, and I don't care if anybody does more, I've done. It took a lot of time, but I think this is a good one. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. We're going to start with a guy called Brian Eno. This is one of his fantastic solo albums. Here Come the Warm Jets. Great album to have. This album featured, let's put that one there. That album featured an often collaborator with Brian Eno, Robert Fripp. He played guitar, and actually Eno is on this album. And Robert Fripp, as we know, was in a band called King Crimson, in the Court of the Crimson King. This part of the band featured two guys called Ian MacDonald and Michael Giles. And they left King Crimson and did their own solo album, which is also a great album. This is MacDonald and Giles. Now, Ian MacDonald, he went on and played on T-Rex's Electric Warrior. He played saxophone. He's credited there. Now, also on this album, the great piano on Get It On was played by a guy called Rick Wakeman from Yes. Yes changed all the time, but this pairing of Yes on Close to the Edge also featured Steve Howe playing guitar. Now, Steve Howe played on Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. He's credited on the sleeve here. He played guitar on the title track. Steve Howe. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome was produced by Trevor Horn, who also produced and played on this little album, Flowers in the Dirt, by one Paul McCartney. He produced 3 of the songs on here, including Rough Ride, Où est le Soleil, and Figure of 8, I believe, was the third song, and he played keyboards and hand clap. Now, also on this album was a guy called Elvis Costello. This is Elvis's third album, which was produced by Nick Lowe, and it also had a Nick Lowe written song. One of my favorite Elvis songs, actually, What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding. And Nick Lowe had albums of his own, including this one, which included Cruel to Be Kind, great song. Now, Nick Lowe also produced this album by a guy called Graham Parker. This is Howling Wind. Now, on this album, Graham Parker has a brass section, and the brass section is led by John Earl. He was a sax player, and he played on The Clash's London Calling. They were known as the Irish Horns. and they played on London Calling. Now the Clash had a bass player called Paul Cinnamon, who made an album with a band. It was sort of a super group called The Good, the Bad, and the Queen, with a guy called Damon Albarn, famous for being in Blur. Now this Blur, Park Life, was produced and engineered by a guy called Stephen Hague. And Stephen Hague also produced Please by the Pet Shop Boys. That one's going to be hard to focus because of the white. Yeah, Stephen Hague. Now, Pet Shop Boys, of course, were just the two fellows, but they did have a saxophone player that played on this album by the name of Andy McKay. And Andy McKay, as you might know, was also the sax player for a little band called Roxy Music. That's Andy McKay there. And also in Roxy Music was a guitarist called Phil Manzanera. And Phil Manzanera also played guitar on this album, Fear by John Cale. And John Cale did an album with a guy called Lou Reed called Songs for Drella, which was a tribute to their friend Andy Warhol. And Lou Reed played in the Velvet Underground. This was the last album he played on, called Load It. And when he left the Velvet Underground, he did a solo album, Transformer, which was produced by David Bowie and Mick Ronson. And David Bowie, as we know, did an album called Heroes, featuring one Brian Eno, which takes us back to Here Comes the Warm Jets. That's 20, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. As I said, I'm done. James, thanks for doing this. All the best, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.